Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This time I am very excited to share with you how I created two more Poxriders of Nurgle to have a whole unit. So as usual, stay tuned for the sculpting, and at the end I'll talk about the painting and just general thoughts about the unit. So starting off with the base components, I used two spare legs from the Realm of Chaos Great Unclean One. I'm pretty excited. I have a couple more of these, and they serve as the basis for the Poxriders, as you guys know from the first video of my Plague Toad. And the last component is two Plague Bearers from my bag of the first edition ones. I just chose two poses that I liked. The next step was just sculpting the frame. I used a milliput, and I'm going to throw up hopefully two photos of the Forge World Plague Toads. These two will serve as the inspiration of how I formed the base, just sculpting roughly where the mouth and eye socket should be. So for this section, I want to show that you can make mistakes. I actually took a knife and recarved the milliput to readjust the base work. I think some parts are a little bit too large. Moving along, this is the part where I usually sculpt the finer details. It seems like a lot of work, but once we have that frame set with the milliput, I go and start adding the lip and the teeth. I have the photo constantly next to me to see where I can place it, but I work in small stages, so working on this front part, I can then work on the hand. And this is not a full tutorial, this is just a small insight and a glimpse, I would say, into how I sculpt the hand. Usually I grab the silicone tip tool and I slightly apply pressure. The reason I don't immediately put pressure into it is you need to see what you're actually kind of drawing onto the clay. So for example, in this hand, using the tool, I gently apply the pressure to get like the ridges in the hands to form the knuckles. Once I like it, you can see I put a bit more pressure and I'm getting the shape. Don't just immediately stab the clay. It's gonna mess up the green stuff. Less is more in this case. After spending a couple more minutes, I'd say roughly 10 to 15, the hand looks like this. It does seem like a big jump, but trust me, it goes by very fast once you get a bit of practice into it. So don't get stressed by it. To this section, I'm showing a little bit more of how I use the tool. So for this bottom lip, I put a small sausage roll of green stuff, and essentially with this silicone tip tool, I just go back and forth. As you can see, it's almost like drawing the clay into shape. These clay shapers are amazing. I know a lot of people do showcase them and talk about them, but you really just need one specific, which is this sharp tipped one. So for this section, I am now stabbing the clay, forming this tear or rip in the skin, and it's all done using this tool. You just go back and forth and apply different pressure until you get the desired look. And as a big jump forward, the toad is nearly done. I did have to glue a milliput horn into the center of his head. Once that's dried, I will apply a second layer of green stuff to blend it in and make the horn a bit thick. You can just see how much green stuff I did, but you can see a lot of milliput still showing through. And this highlights why the milliput base is semi-important. It helps place key components like the eyes and the lip. At the same time, it saves you time from adding more green stuff. So here is the Plague Bearer I'm going to use. I sliced the legs off, and I will slice the arm at the elbow to make a pose to better fit the Plague Toad. And once we have the kind of components all cut out, we just pin him to the back of the toad. You can see the horn is actually completed. It took another 10 minutes to put a layer of green stuff and then sculpt some teared skin at the base of the horn. And for a big jump, the Plague Rider is actually complete. I had to sculpt the legs of the Plague Bearer and blend the elbow into the new position. The reason why I sculpt the legs like this, I want the pose to be very natural. If you just bend the legs to the body, it just doesn't seem right. I was inspired by the Juan Diaz demonettes actually from 6th edition, where they were gracefully on the back of their mounts. I do encourage people to do this as it does help improve your sculpting, but it also adds a more natural look to the overall miniature. Up next is the other Plague Toad. This one is the famous Forge-World pose of him yelling, so it required a lot more thought. This section, I am sculpting the teeth. So this is the second silicone tool I use a lot. It's like a flat-headed tool, and this helps get this rigid structure I need to form the teeth. Once we have this complete, we're going to grab the same tool and now sculpt the individual teeth. What this means is we grab the tool, we put it on its side, and we just draw a straight line into the green stuff. You see I go back and forth a lot. I put the tool on its side, on the front. The amount of effort you put in will dictate how the teeth look at the end. In the beginning, it will look rough, but be patient, like I always say, and go back and forth. Basically, you're going to fiddle with the green stuff until you like the effect you got overall. Now, I'm going to prepare you. There is a big jump. You can see the gums and the cheekbones completed. All it is applying a second layer of smaller green stuff sausage rolls or layers and continuously going back and forth. The gums are quite important. Without them, it would look horrible. Now, I'm sculpting the inside of the gums too. This one, all I can say is I just put different random shapes into the mouth that looked organic. Try to have an image on hand. This section, I had to really go blind in it. I didn't record a lot because I was a bit hesitant, hence why you're going to see this. It is a enormous jump. The toad is essentially done. I have to put the rider and finish the horns and put more details on the back. The mouth was again inspired by the Forge-World miniature. The best advice I can give you for this organic Nurgle mouth is have fun with it and add a lot of different shapes and textures into it. It doesn't have to be perfect, but by having all of those holes and random structure, the paint will pick it up very easily. And here is the Plague Bearer we're going to use. Chopping off both legs once again will get the foundation we need. He required the least amount of conversion compared to the first miniature. And here is the toad completed. Not a huge change from what you saw previously. The horns got completed. The boils and exposed skin on the back of him is done. And the Plague Bearer itself, I had to hide the pin by extending his gut and sculpting an organ or two coming out. Feet got completely sculpted as well. Again, it's really good practice. It pushes you out of the comfort zone. So I do encourage you guys, if you're going to sculpt a Plague Bearer on a creature, try to sculpt the knee down. It will really help push what you need for like anatomy and get you more comfortable with the green stuff and the clay shaper. So let's show what the models look like once they're painted. So guys, here is the Poxrider unit all together. Really happy with how they all look. Let me move on to talk about the unit champion first, and then I'll wrap it up with the unit Standardbearer. Guys, here is the unit champion. I am beyond happy with how he turned out. If you can tell, once again, I was heavily inspired by the Forge-World Poxriders. This mount in particular, like I mentioned before, I wanted it to be the iconic mouth open, and I actually leaned more into the green color that I'd say you saw more in like 4th edition 40k for Nurgle, where it was a bit more not so bright or like rotten and camo like. So I'm really happy I went with green as the tone for the whole model. What I mean by that is the rider on top is the same color as Kugath. I know many of you like that green, and for me, I like it a lot. It's very retro, it pops, and it just adds a nice contrast to this yellow camo kind of green, and I'm overall really happy of how it turned out, especially with, I guess, the exposed parts, that magenta with the yellow to the red. Everything about this model to me just screams Oldhammer, and that's always the goal. Paint job wise, I'd say each Toad Rider took about 4.5 to 5 hours to complete each one. I did paint them together. It just takes a little bit of time, especially because I was deciding what to do. And for this guy in particular, I'd say the mouth of the toad was a huge focal point. And let me zoom in. I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out at the end. A lot of detail, and this is something that I can't blame the sculptor because I sculpted it. So I had to actually commit, and I think I'm pretty happy with the result. I didn't want to spend too much time as all of my paint jobs tend to be just like a nice tabletop. I don't want to spend, like in my old days of Lord of the Rings, I would spend 15 to 17 hours per model. I have no time for that, and I would like to play more games. So I'm really happy with just everything about him, the composition of the model to the colors. The guy on top, I like how I went with the decision to go with the plague bearer who's yelling. It kind of matches the toad he's riding, and actually this toad is a little bit larger than my prototype. Um, Mainly that's due to the mouth having to be open, so the scale had to be adjusted, but I also think it adds to that Nurgle feel. Nurgle's very grotesque, very large, so for me it kind of added a nice contrast to have that in. Um, yeah, I'm just really pleased with how everything turned out. Again, he's very chunky. Had fun with the non-metallic on the blade, and yeah, I'm honestly beyond happy. I know I keep saying that, but literally more than half the model is sculpted, and to me, it does look like this guy could have been a model of released in the 80s. Let me know what you think. I'm really, really pleased with him. I think the funny thing is he looks more intimidating than my Tarmakin Toad Dragon now. That's a slight problem. And one other thing I should note was on Kugath and my Plague Bearers, I painted the teeth like normal. Let me know what you think. I might go back to my Plague Mites. Let me grab one here. I might go back to my Plague Mites and paint the teeth into this normal bone color. Let me know what you think. Do you think the black is fine, or do you think I should lean more in just the tooth decay? I made Horticulus with the black teeth too, so I'm kind of deciding what to do. If you haven't noticed, it's the toad has the same color as this Plaguemite I did, so really happy for all the connections you see throughout, the whole force. And yeah, I'm just, again, really pleased with him. Not much more to say other than I finally have a unit of Poxriders. Enough rambling, let me move on to the standard bearer of the unit. And here is the standard bearer of the unit. Really, I'll just be honest, kick-ass freehand on the banner. I wanted something a bit more grotesque. I've been looking through all of my Nurgle banners I've been doing, and I wanted something a little bit, not like heavy metal inspired, but a bit more not so clean. I think Kugaf's banner, I really made that demon, and I'm so proud of him, really clean, but he looks more like a spider lice thing. So for the Poxriders, I was trying to scratch my head of how can I make something more distinct for a unit such as the Poxriders. I would say in the lore, they're rare, they're elite unit, in Nurgle's Demonic Legions. So I opted to go for this really gnarly, I don't know, it could be a demon prince, it could be a plague bearer for all we know, it could be one of Nurgle's original demons, but I'm really proud of it. It took a little bit of work to go back and forth and add all the little, I guess the horns, I would describe them as filled with like giant pimples. And I used a Mephiston Red, highlighted them up with Evil Sin Scarlet, and then just dots of Fire Dragon Bright, I believe. I'm really pleased with that effect. And for the skin, I just decided to finally make the banner one of my Plague Bearer skin colors. I've been leaning more into the teal, but for this guy, I thought it'd be cool to have the pink for the Nurgle symbol and all of that. It is a bit cartoony, but I do like it a lot. It's very striking, and I think for the Poxriders, it'll definitely stand out. So banner was extremely fun. Let me move on to the model itself. So we have yet another Forge World inspired Plague Toad, and really happy with it. Sorry about that. I think the exposure was a little bit bright. Again, painted him in the color scheme of my other Nurgle demons, and I'm really happy with this pose. He's very derpy with the tongue coming out. Again, I did sculpt each one to be the Forge World equivalent with that Oldhammer twist. What is interesting about this guy, and I believe I discussed it in the video, is he has Nurglings on him. As you know, these are the legs of the Great Unclean One. This variation of legs came with these Nurglings sculpted onto it. So I'm really happy that they're on this variation. I think having the Standardbearer have these Nurglings surrounding him adds that extra character to such a cool model. Same non-metallic on the blade. Very fast actually. I think the non-metallic only takes 6 minutes, so really happy with the results. And overall, again, just like I said for the unit champion, I'm so pleased with the legs being sculpted. That's one thing I really strive to push myself. Growing up, anytime I saw the White Dwarves, since the Storm of Chaos, any Nurgle demon who was mounted, a lot of people would just take the pose of the Plague Bearer and just slap him on. I thought for me it's a little bit lazy, but at the same time it's odd. These demons should look natural on their mount, and I'd say honestly, I was more inspired not by the Forge World ones, because I believe only one of the Poxriders is actually like squatting and sitting on the Plague Toad. The other two are actually standing, holding the center horns. This pose was more inspired by the Juan Diaz demonettes on their Seekers. I think they just look really cool, and I just like the pose, like they're just sitting on it. So really happy. This is a very fleshy skin tone. Quite a few of my Plague Bearers are painted in this scheme, and I think it really does help pop. One thing I will note, where the Plague Bearer is sitting, I did the same green glaze, or greenish blue glaze I did for my original test prototype. Now the difference is on my unit champion, he is such a dark green, you can't actually see it, but I do like having that little bit of green just to break up the rider from his mount. But yeah, this is the unit Standardbearer. I'm really pleased with him. This whole unit has been such a great journey to push my sculpting and try to be very consistent. I think, is what this new Nurgle 2.0 has been. I think before, when I painted, my quality went all over the place, but for this Nurgle, this time around, I'm making everything a lot more consistent, a lot more regimented in the painting and even the sculpting. I'm trying to make everything a bit more refined. Again, all self-taught. I know I have a lot more to improve. Even seeing this guy, certain elements I could have definitely made it more smooth. But let me get the unit back together and have some closing thoughts. And here we have the unit once again, guys. As always, I really appreciate all of the support. It's been really motivational and just inspiring me to push my boundaries and produce models like this for you guys. Again, really proud of the whole unit. I think all of them have such a distinct feel, and definitely I hope this unit will get people to stop and actually look at the army, as this has become a centerpiece, I'd say, unit for the faction. And just such a ambitious project. I never thought I'd actually create these models. I probably will make at least one more. Potentially max would be 5. But I hope this unit has inspired you guys to go out and make something. Don't be afraid to just tackle a project. I'd say for me, having to use this many legs of out of production, great unclean ones, was a little bit daunting, but at the end it did pay off. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video and look forward to the next one.